Things feel like they are very crazy right now in Spain.
Tensions are rising in Spain. At a hostel in Barcelona, protesters were taping off the entrance.
I was at this protest. I actually joined the anti-tourism protest in Barcelona, and this exact moment was insane, bro. Like, I did a whole video covering this, and I ended up getting police escorted out of that protest. If you want to see that, just look up above and you can check out that video.
When they were confronted by a staff member, it escalated quickly.
That part was unexpected, right? Like, the firecrackers just came off out of nowhere. I got that on camera as well.
Protests against tourism are now erupting across the country. In Tenerife, an island with a population of less than 1 million, they welcomed 7.4 million tourists in 2024. That's the same number of tourists that visited Australia. Barcelona was visited by 15 million tourists.
15 million. Wow, bro. That is a big number. It is summertime right now in Barcelona in July, and I really am starting to see the difference in high season. Living here, I came back in November, and now that it's summertime, you definitely see an influx in the crowds.
It's almost 10 times their population. These protesters fear that mass tourism leads to a higher cost of living, particularly of housing. Over the past 10 years, the cost of rent has nearly doubled. But while tourism plays a role in all of this, its effect on Spain's affordability crisis is widely misunderstood. This is how Spain really got too expensive for Spaniards with hindsight.
Is Spain too expensive for Spaniards? I made a video similar to this before, and from what I've heard from actual Spaniards, people are saying, yeah, in the cities it's expensive, but if you go outside of Barcelona and Madrid, you're pretty much fine.
This video was filmed by a resident of Ibiza who was returning back home.
Bro, I mean, Ibiza is a party island. That's like the type of people that it attracts. That part's a little crazy right now. Like, don't mess with the nature.
Drunk tourists do stupid things. Barcelona is taking center stage to tackle these issues, and they have plans to ban holiday apartments. But you can't just blame tourists for Spain's housing crisis. I did a deep dive into the statistics, and I found that while tourism plays a part in all of this, how it exactly works is not what you might expect. For example, in Barcelona, did you know that short-term rentals like Airbnb make up less than 1% of the entire housing stock? I'm going to share all the findings of my research about what is happening today, but first, it's important that we understand a bit of historical context.
Let's lay out the history. I really hope this guy is coming with some good facts. Then I'll share the thoughts that I want to share.
In the 1950s, Spain was still mostly an agricultural society. But in cities, large manufacturing industries were emerging. People in rural areas wanted to move to the city, but Spain's leader, Franco, didn't like this at all. He feared that cities could become a breeding ground for political dissent, so he imposed travel restrictions. Any Spaniard who wanted to move between provinces had to obtain a permit, and this kept people in the countryside. But by the 1960s, even Franco realized that this couldn't last, so he lifted the restrictions, and as a result, 10 million Spaniards decided to move. With Spain's population then standing at 32 million people, this meant that nearly 1 in every 3 people moved. This created a massive spike in demand for urban housing, and Franco built millions of cheap homes in the city's suburbs. This helped increase the rate of homeownership from 45% in 1950 to 70% in 1970.
Yeah, that's a huge jump. I almost keep forgetting that Franco it really was not that long ago, like what, like 40, 50 years ago, and it's still pretty. I hear some people are still in that like fascist culture here, and it hasn't completely left Spain yet.
70. In Barcelona, it was even more extreme. Just 5% of people owned their home in 1950, and by 1970, this figure had risen to 38%. Franco helped Spain become a nation of homeowners. After Franco's death, Spain joined the European Economic Area, and they opened their doors for tourism. The tipping point became the Summer Olympics. These were
I feel like the Summer Olympics that pretty much put Barcelona on the map.
held in 1992 in Barcelona, and in preparation for this event, the city invested massively in its infrastructure. Factories were replaced by parks, fisherman shacks by beaches for sunbathing tourists. The city was transformed into a mecca for urban tourism, and this helped rebrand Spain as an attractive holiday destination. So this was all done by design. The economy of Spain was shrinking and there was extremely high unemployment. And that is because
It appears to me is like back in 1992, when the Olympics were coming, they were redesigning Spain, specifically Barcelona, for tourism. And now, 33 years later, the plans were working. In fact, maybe just working too well, and they bit off a little more than they can chew.
manufacturing sector was in decline, and to solve these issues, they restructured their economy with tourism at its heart. And more tourism meant more demand for property. But since the rate of homeownership had now risen to 84% on a national level, one of the highest rates in Europe, rising property costs would increase the net worth of many Spaniards. It all seemed to make a lot of sense. The booming construction sector created tens of thousands of new jobs as they built hundreds of thousands of new homes every single year, with a record in 2006. On paper, this all looked great.
Yeah, back then, construction really gave a lot of people and family income, and they could live very well off of that income because of the housing boom and become homeowners themselves. But I'm sure he's going to talk about the crash that's coming.
The economy of Spain more than doubled in size in just a few years. But this all came crashing down.
Boom, right on point.
Spain's economy was the envy of Europe in the early 2000s, outpacing most other countries. But it crashed twice as hard. Their impressive growth was fueled by easy credit, lax regulation, and a construction sector that was building homes to sell as an investment, not as a place to live. The crash led to the unemployment rate to rise from a near historic low of 8% to an all-time high of 26%, meaning that now 1 in every 4 adults was unemployed. It was a disaster like Spain had never seen before. Most of the job loss was caused by the collapse of the construction sector.
There's supposedly a bunch of ghost houses in Spain as well, so I've never seen any living in Barcelona, but I've heard in other parts of Spain, there are just blocks of empty houses in some towns, literally just empty.
This was the main driver of employment in the early 2000s, and Spain needed another industry to take its place. The EU was providing generous funding to Spain to get out of this troubled position, and the Spanish government then decided to invest this in boosting its tourism infrastructure, especially in places that economically depended on this source of income, like the Mediterranean and the Canary Islands. Then, following the Arab Spring, many tourists decided not to visit popular destinations in North Africa, like Tunisia, Egypt, and Turkey, and this contributed to a boost of tourism to Spain. The number of tourists that visited Spain rose by 34% over just those 5 years. They invested this in refurbishing their coastal towns, beaches, and marketing campaigns, and they deregulated this short-term rental market to make room for services like Airbnb. All these efforts led in 2017.
Wow, can you just not? I just can't get over how gorgeous that is. I haven't been to any of the Spanish islands yet, but after seeing this, I really want to go. I'm in between Mallorca. I mean, Ibiza's kind of been on the list, but I'm not that much of a party person anymore. If you've been to the Spanish islands, like recommend a good one for me, like somewhere low key, beautiful, nice vibe, chill people, where I won't get squirted with water guns. Honestly, you have to check out that video I did when I was at the anti-tourism protests in Barcelona. I'll put it back up above so you can check that out. They were killing me with the water guns.
17 to Spain overtaking the US and becoming the second most visited country in the world.
Whoa, I had no idea Spain overtook the US to become the second most visited country in the world. I mean, that's like an achievement, I would say.
This was a major accomplishment, and tourism acted as a stabilizing force in the Spanish economy, but it wasn't providing the same high-paying jobs as construction and manufacturing, and it added immense pressure on the housing market. Spain, before the market crash, built over 500,000 new homes every year. That was way more than they needed. But now they were building just 90,000 homes per year, less than half what was required to meet the rising demand. So I found this one graph that illustrates the problem perfectly. See this. This is how much the salaries of young people have risen in the past 10 years, about 23%, while inflation over that same time was about 20%. This means that effectively, people are making about the same.
Don't keep your money in the banks. It's a scam. Use crypto.
But here's the real shocker. This is how much the cost of buying and renting a house have increased over that same period. While salaries just barely kept up with inflation, the cost of buying and renting shot through the roof.
Yeah, when I talk to some people, just, the common workers here, just your blue collar jobs, a lot of people are working multiple jobs just to stay afloat. I'm talking like 2, 3 jobs. These are like some local people I know, and also some people that have migrated here from Latin America that aren't digital nomads. They're actually working here. And yeah, they say they're working like 70 hours a week, some people, just to be able to live. But even the people I had met that moved here from Latin America, they're just happy. Like they would rather work here and live here than, I guess, stay in Latin America, just for a whole bunch of reasons I don't want to get into.
Roof. One of the causes is that Spain just didn't build enough houses where people wanted to live, while the number of tourists and immigrants was increasing. Here you see the difference in Barcelona. There are now 8 times more foreign-born people in the city than in 1999. And this is also a trend on a national level, but it is much less pronounced. But in the end, the demand and supply of housing will always change. And it is the government's responsibility to put policies in.
Bro is spitting facts. The government's responsibility. One thing that I just don't understand about the anti-tourism protest and, the people saying tourists go home, expats go home, digital nomads go home. It just seems that they're crying at the wrong people because, hear me out, as an expat, as a tourist, we don't make regulation. We have and most people that actually come here aren't paying any attention to the politics of what's going on. So it's like, you can't squirt these people with water guns and expect them to leave. And then, Barcelona in Spain, it's a gorgeous country. People are just going to keep coming back. The people that you should be holding accountable, if you really want to see a change, the people that could actually make the difference is the actual government, the one who's in control of policies, the one who's in control of regulations and all this, not the people that are coming here. That's just like you're fighting a battle that you can't win.
Place that restore that balance. So let me share the most shocking discovery from my research. So I told you that under Franco, millions of homes were built to house people in rural areas, which people then left in large numbers after the restrictions on travel were lifted. This left many homes abandoned. Then, during the construction...
Remember I mentioned the ghost houses earlier?
boom of the early 2000s. Hundreds of thousands of homes were built and never sold. They were either demolished or they are still sitting empty today. Then the housing market for so many years was used by rich foreigners.
Now that I'm thinking about that, I feel like that would be a good investigative video. Like me going to find these ghost houses in Spain, like the blocks of empty houses. If you want to see that video, drop a comment down below. It's something I'll consider making. If it's something you feel like you'd want to watch, I'll investigate that and I'll be on site.
And locals to act as an investment. People with money, they bought these homes and they let them sit empty while they increased in value. So from all homes in the entire country of Spain, 14% is sitting empty.
That's actually a big percentage when you consider, when I'm thinking about the housing shortage in Barcelona, that seems like a big number. But compared with the rest of Spain, I'm not too sure just how significant that is. But 14%, that's still a lot of empty houses.
It makes absolutely no sense to me that Spain has a housing shortage while on paper they also have a housing surplus. In very touristy places like the Canary Islands, this might make some intuitive sense. Here, 1 in every 3 homes is sitting empty. These are mostly holiday homes from...
Bro, 1 in every 3 homes? The Canary Islands? And that's a heavily populated tourist attraction. It's really hot here. I'm sorry, I gotta get the fan back.
From tourists that are often used seasonally. But what about major cities? In Madrid, 6% of homes are sitting empty. In Barcelona and Valencia, about 9% of homes are
9%? Okay, that's like big for Barcelona. But where are these houses? Where are the empty houses?
sitting empty. That's an incredible number of homes that is not used for living, while so many people are also searching for an affordable flat. On top of all of this, in the last few years, the number of tourists visiting Spain has broken all records, reaching 94 million people in 2024. This coincided with a jump in tourist homes by more than 1/3 in just 1 year. Of course, people are pissed off. Don't add so much.
Yeah, I'm telling you, don't get caught up with those water guns. They are reckless.
Much demand when you're not creating the supply. Tourism plays a major role.
Also, I just want to be clear. So, after living here for 8 months now, I've been to the anti-tourism protests. I have some local friends, and I would consider myself like pretty plugged in. I would say that the anti-tourism people is really just a small group of people in Barcelona. And I think that they probably get way more attention than they deserve. And I've actually met a lot of local people. I even interviewed a local man. I did another video when I first moved here, seeing if locals want tourists to leave. And I interviewed an older Catalan man born here in Barcelona. He's probably in his 70s or 80s. And he was just saying that the people who want tourists to leave, that they're whiners, that they're complainers, and that most people just don't think that way. So I think that the media definitely amplifies the small anti-tourism protesters here. And I feel that actually I would say most people are welcoming and they totally understand that there is tourism. I would say that they are welcoming, but obviously this is our home, so to come and be respectful of that and just don't be one of those tourists that, just come and you get sloppy drunk and, just one of those typical arrogant tourists. But yeah, I feel that most people are actually welcoming